Friends, it is that time of year again when we dive into the Sephora savings event for fall 2025. And if you're not familiar with Sephora's reward program, it works on a tier system, meaning you'll have to meet a certain purchase total threshold to qualify for Rouge, which is the highest tier. That'll grant you 20% off, and that starts on October 31st. My gosh, that's around the corner. VIB is the tier below. That'll grant you 15% off, and you can start shopping on November 4th. And the lowest tier is Insider. That's the baseline tier. You get 10% off and you can begin to shop on 11/4, but everyone can get 30% off, I believe, on October 31st of the Sephora collection. Now, here are the pros and cons. The Sephora reward system might not be everyone's favorite because it doesn't work on a point system like Ulta. The more you buy, the more points you have, therefore becoming more eligible for discounts and what have you. So the incentive is in the buying power, where with Sephora is more so, well, you could get 20% off if you spend this much, which might not be everyone's prerogative, right? So people do have what I like to call the Rouge Community Collective, where they'll share like one email or one phone number to shop with, so collectively they'll be able to meet that purchase threshold that grants them 20% off when it happens in spring and autumn. Or maybe you just wait for the brand sale, something I have spoken about before, where depending on the brand and the shipping conditions and all that, because Sephora, since it is a larger retailer, might have more comprehensive shipping conditions, domestic and international. For the luxury beauty brands, however, they have their own European site. So if you're in Europe, then you're not going to have a problem with that. And sometimes they offer a much better sale than Sephora. And I say that because if you largely use this sale opportunity to target higher price ticket items like the luxury beauty, maybe luxury fragrance and skincare, then 20% off is more substantial than, like, let's say a mid-tier brand such as Urban Decay or Laneige. And for those mid-tier brands, I for sure rather wait for the actual brand sale, because sometimes you'll get 25% off or sometimes 30. It depends, and Black Friday is starting way before Black Friday anymore. I feel like Black Friday sales start to leak early November, and they don't just last one day, they last a couple of days. So that allows you time to shop, to peruse, to think about stuff where you're not in a rush. And for the Sephora sale, it runs through November 10th. So you will have the opportunity to use 20% or 15%, but there are 20% coupons flying around. So a Rouge member, I think, can share a 20% discount code with friends, but they're only able to use it once. You could probably hack the system by using a different email. I'm sure you figured it out already, but you can still get the 20% if you know you're just buying one thing or you're buying once from the 2-week event. It's totally up to you. I'm sharing my recommendations and some wish list items because this is like end of year time ish, and there are a lot of favorites that I want to share, and kind of just carving out the Black Friday list, right? And on my Shop My account, I'll make sure to not only have my Sephora recommendations with my Sephora affiliate link, which thank you in advance. Thank you for even thinking about clicking that link. I'll also create like a Black Friday shelf where not only will I share beauty, but from different retailers, and not only beauty, lifestyle, nail polish, hair, everything I've used this year, especially when I see that said brand is holding a sale on their site. I'll make sure to let you know so that everything is there for you to click on, to browse, easy access. There you go. Now I'm looking at my list. It is quite comprehensive. My goodness, this year was insane. This year was insane with the makeup, and I wanted to create like a grungy look today. Do you like it? And we'll start with what's on my lips. And that is the Anastasia Beverly Hills satin lipstick, as well as the matte lipstick. I'm not quite sure if this is a new product or the product has already been out, but they just added new shades. You could let me know down below. I've already shared Spice on my Beautylish video, which I absolutely adore. This is a matte finish lipstick. It is a rose brown, one of my most favorite shades I now own in my collection. But the one I have on here is a satin finish, but they named it rose brown. I think this is a rose brown. To me, this is a taupe brown. And I love that. That's why I have it on. I don't think rose brown is quite the accurate description. But if you're into the taupe browns like I am, can be sometimes, this is a beautiful color. And the satin consistency It's marvelous. There's no scent to it, no strange fragrance. It's creamy, color rich. I mean, my goodness. You can't go wrong with the Anastasia lipsticks. They're phenomenal. The mattes are creamy and moussey, not drying on the lips. The satins are smooth, creamy, and color rich. Feel comfortable as well. They don't accentuate texture, and they are a lovely formula. And I still have my eye on Mocha Berry, I think it's called. I might have to get that during the sale, or I could wait if ABH runs their own sale, but I am preparing a wish list, and Mocha Berry is definitely on there. I also had my eye on Hazelnut. It's like a matte peachy nude, and I'm not particularly fond of those shades, but I think this could work with like a medium neutral liner, not a super dark brown liner because I don't like that gradient look on my lip. A little softer on the liner, and that hazelnut color I just think is beautiful. There was one more. Allow me to pull up this photo. The hazelnut's the top. Toffee is the second swatch here on my arm. It kind of looks like Spice, but it might be a little more brown, where Spice is definitely leans more rose. And of course, the last one here is what you see on my lip. Rosy brown. So I might have to get Hazelnut, Toffee, and Mocha Berry. And overall, the shade selection from the ABH lipsticks are phenomenal. And I know they got that little small 9-pan embers. It's cute. I like it. I don't know if it's worth getting even with 20% off. I do understand the appeal. It's kind of giving me subculture vibes, but not really. It doesn't push the envelope as much like subculture did for me. It's nostalgic though. I guess that's why is kind of calling my name. If only they threw in the mustard in there. If they threw in a mustard and a heavier burgundy matte and replaced some of those bronze metallics in there, if they would have had something. That would have been a great opportunity. I wonder why they didn't go the subculture route with the 9-pan, but it's fine. It's fine. Giorgio Armani eye tint. I have Sandalwood number 25, I think. My apologies. It rubbed off. This is a phenomenal product. It is long wear liquid eyeshadow, and it is the perfect warm beige for my lids. It's something that I just slap on and can just have it as is, so it has a clean canvas on there with the mascara, or I followed up with a dark brown liner, or it serves as a base for my lighter texture shadows like the Miss Dior shadows or my Chanel shadows, even Danessa Myricks or even Vanngo shadows. It has served the greatest purpose for simple eye looks that are soft but have enough dimension and serve like a minimalist look well. And again, it's just incredibly easy to blend out. It's smooth and the color left behind is absolutely perfect. And once again, sometimes I don't want like a dark shadow on my lids, although I love that moment, like that hazy moment. I just want something softer, warmer beige where you can see that the lid is clean, and then when I add mascara, it doesn't look empty. I could also follow up with like a light tap of a sparkler dazzler, something from my collection, like a Danessa Myricks Color Fix sticks, or maybe go in one of my Quints and just tap on one of those sparkler shadows. I mean, I could do whatever. The ease of use of the eye tint is immense. Now, I think I'll probably wait for an Armani sale. Maybe I could get a little more than 20%, that's why. And there's some shadows, like Espresso is a dark brown, but ooh, wouldn't that just be lovely all over the lid as like a one and done smoky eye? Yeah, that's on the wish list as well. Danessa, speaking of, Freedom Palette Lightwork 7 is limited edition. I assume that people are going to go after that palette. They're going to go after it fast, as well as the Color Fix sticks, as well as her Blurring Balm spray that recently released that I have used. This is a great product. Let's apply some now. It does help the longevity of the makeup where it doesn't break down as quickly. There's no scent to it, and it leaves behind a beautiful soft matte finish on the skin, especially if you want the skin texture to look clean in terms of not overly made up, not too powdery. Fantastic product. I'm happy I bought this because I was helping my friend's sister with her wedding makeup, and because we were doing it earlier in the morning to ensure that it stayed for when pictures started. Great little product. So go Danessa crazy. I don't know how high Danessa goes for her own brand site sale. You'll have to remind me down below. But 20% off $128, which is the cost of the palette. not too bad. Let me take a breath before I get into the Dior because they have killed it this year. My goodness, where do I begin? The Forever Blush Soft Filter, the On-Stage lipsticks. Where are the On-Stage lipsticks? These guys here, the Holiday Collection. This is the Quint. The highlighter, the pressed powder, the highlighter that released before, the bronzer. I can go on and on and on and on and on. Now, I do think the two standout products from this year, definitely the On-Stage lipsticks. This is a long wear shiny satin lipstick that is phenomenal. My gosh, this does not come off. Even when you eat stuff, sure, maybe Berry Attitude and Fearless Brown do wear a little bit, but Confident Nude, Copper Attraction, and Redwood Star are the other three that I have. They stay put. And you gotta use like not just regular old Bioderma, okay? You gotta use some a little more aggressive to get that off. But it feels comfortable. There is a little bit of a scent to it, but I forgive it because the formula is phenomenal. And of course, the Forever Blush Soft Filter. This has to be one of their greatest products they ever released. Dior's Liquid Blush, and I actually have on Orchid, number 7. I have this on the cheeks now. This is like a soft peach moment, and Oud 08 is your quintessential red rouge that looks great on everybody. Just sheer it out or add on more color for that intensity. And if you were to get a highlighter, I prefer the Holiday highlighter more than the one that released before. The Dior Forever Glow Luminizer, also from Holiday, called the Glow Luminizer, but the Glow Luminizer from Holiday is more crystal. There's more powderiness to this one versus the one from Holiday. I don't know if you can recognize that in the swatch. And I actually have it on. So this is Holiday. This is from the Standard. I tossed it on top of the Gucci highlighter. That's the thing with the Holiday one, because it's a little more translucent in nature and you can get away with more layering if you like to layer your highlighters. They both have fragrance, but the compact from Holiday also is so pretty. And the Canage star motif on the compact. You also have the Canage pattern on here, but with the gold and everything going on, it's a lot of fun. Oh, and of course, the sparkly lips. We can't forget the sparkly lips for Holiday. Now, I didn't check recently, but Sephora only had like 3 shades of this, and I believe there are like 8 or 10 in all. I have Illusionist, Acrobat, and Magic. Magic is something else, and I failed to do this, but in order to activate the sparkle, you have to let the matte dry down, rub your lips together, and you get that sparkle. Now here's the thing, people often compare this to the iconic Chanel lip duo, and the difference is that this becomes transferable when you apply the gloss. With the Chanel, even when you apply the gloss, that ain't moving. However, because it's not moving, that liquid matte worn alone is not the most comfortable matte. This is a lot more comfortable to wear without the gloss. So I think that's the major trade-off. I knew something had to give because this is a lot moussier and creamy in feel than the Chanel lip duo. And even without the gloss, it actually feels quite nice. It doesn't feel as tight as the Chanel. And the lips are sparkly. That's the thing too. If you decide to wear a gloss, then you're just gonna have to take this along, right? If you're wearing it to dinner, you might have just to reapply because it's definitely going to move and groove once you apply the gloss. So that's just something to think about. But I love that product. I think it's phenomenal for a liquid lip product with the sparkle and the colors. This color specifically, Acrobat, is quite grungy. I know it looks warm here because the lights are leaning a little warm right now because it's so cloudy outside. Ooh, but make sure you check out my short where I try this on in a cooler setting. And this almost has like, it's like a caramel mustard. I can't quite nail it. But Magic, in my opinion, if you were just to get one, and I don't know if Sephora has the Magic shade, but this right here, yeah, sign me up. And of course, I forgot to mention the Dior Glow Backstage highlighter palette. I have one in 003. Yes, 003 Pearly Peachy Glow. In my opinion, one of the better ones from like the 4 or 5 that released recently, especially this glitter shade. This is shiny, and although on the dry side, it doesn't have that same chunky glitter effect that you might have seen from their palettes from years ago. So I do think Dior made this a lot finer. And this is another one here, not as sparkly, but it does have nice shine. And again, smooth on the application, lovely on the skin, doesn't accentuate texture, although I would be careful. If you want like this sparkle topper crystal effect, the Dior Holiday is more finely milled in my opinion than the one found in Backstage. If I may, I'll swatch it right at the top of the wrist so you can get a better idea. This to me is smoother, where you could just see the larger particles from the Backstage palette. It's up to you. You could get away with this. You just have to be ultra careful with how much you pick up. That's why I'm purposefully using a smaller brush, because it's just more apparent from the Backstage palette. And that might not be for you. I explained this in my Backstage video. I don't know if it was it was like a general luxury beauty video that included the Backstage palette, but you could check that one out for swatches and more comprehensive demos. But if you're into the sparkly though, by all means, have a blast. EADEM. EADEM wasn't a brand I was hip to, but they are on the Shop My platform and were nice to offer a PR opportunity. So I chose their Les Chouchous Softening Lip Balm. Is the Croissant ou Bleu. I'm sorry, my French is terrible. This is the metal tip gloss, and it has sparklies in the shiny gloss. So there is a little bit of a light gold tint to it, and something I don't wear often, but I wanted to show you because it does have the gold sparkle in there and is a nice moment to have on the lip if you don't feel like having lipstick on, but you want a shiny lip with the gold sparkle. And it's like a lip treatment as well, so you're getting the softening effects, the benefits, as well as the sparkle and the shine. I could imagine you could layer this, like I could layer this over the lipstick I have on now for a shine boost, a gloss boost. But I wanted to include this product because I do think it lovely, it quite nice. It's not my cup of tea because it does have that sweet vanilla scent to it, but I wanted to mention it because if you were looking at this but weren't quite sure what EADEM was about, I like it. It's a cool product. I wouldn't waste the 20% off something like this. I would wait to maybe EADEM has their own sale on their site. Maybe that's worth waiting for instead of purchasing it from Sephora if it's of interest to you. Givenchy. I would like to get that contour bronzer for colorway compact. It's been on my radar for quite some time because it released in Europe months ago, but it has been available in the States for a bit. But I'm like, I might as well just wait until it goes on sale. But I'm like, should I wait until Givenchy holds a sale? Nordstrom at most would do 15%, so maybe it's better that I get it from Sephora. But I wanted to share a few Givenchy favorites, which has to be what I have on the skin now, the coveted Givenchy Glow Serum Foundation 4.5N. If it wasn't fragrance, this would be my S tier foundation. I'm serious. Everything from the texture to the color match, the undertone is perfect. It's smooth, it's creamy without feeling heavy. It still looks skin-like after you blended it. It's like creamy velvet on the skin. It is phenomenal. It evens out my skin tone. It blurs my imperfections. It just is my face but better. And it's a tier above a tint, right? It's an actual foundation, but without feeling heavy. It's just so elegant in the formulation. Phenomenal. I don't have the Glow Serum Concealer, but I'm this close to trying it. This close. I also wanted to mention the Prism Libre 4-color pressed powder that I purchased in the last Sephora sale, and I quite like this pressed powder, especially since it includes the brush here, and under the flap you have the 4-color pressed powder. I have it today under the eyes, and it's quite interesting. I mentioned that I like the Dior more, but I do recognize how the Dior is a little more powdery than, well, actually they're quite similar. They're quite similar. They're lightweight. They have that creamy feel. I think the Givenchy is a little creamier whoa, in the texture. Like it's a little tighter in pan. So if you prefer more of that hybrid experience, you might want to check out the Prada Beauty Rebalancing Resetting Powder. Far more expensive. That's the most expensive. I think that sits at like $95. This is in the 50s. I think this is around the 50s as well. What's appealing about the Givenchy is that it includes 4 different undertones, like 4 different colors, to serve not only as setting the under eye, but also rebalancing the color there. So if that is of importance to you, in addition to your concealer, then maybe you want to look at the 4 color because of the different undertones included depending on the skin tone you choose. So that's a lot of fun because the Givenchy has like 5 different pressed powder colorways. So it's a lot more comprehensive than the Prada Beauty, more comprehensive than the DIOR as well, and it has like 4 different colors in each colorway. So there you go. But I have to mention their velvet lipstick, specifically the Le Rouge Velvet Matte. I have 2 shades. They're the Slim Bullet in N06 and N08. N06 is just a beautiful rose matte. So compared to the ABH here, you're gonna get a little more red from the Givenchy. If you want a little more brown, definitely stick to the ABH lipstick in Spice. This does have fragrance. It's a strange one. I'm not crazy about the Givenchy lipstick scent. I'm not. It's a little weird. It's like, it's spicy, but flowery. I tolerate it, I do, because I love the velvet lipstick. Because of the smaller bullet, it's easier to maneuver around the lip so you don't mess up. But this color, N08, might be a berry mocha moment from ABH, but ooh-wee, it's giving you Volcano Heart from Louis Vuitton, and Louis Vuitton is $160. Not included in the sale, of course. If you wanted a similar color, then I would go with Givenchy, the Le Rouge Velvet in N08, but I much prefer the Louis Vuitton fragrance than the Givenchy one. Try it in store. Of course, sanitize it if you're comfortable with that. I would go to the counter to try it and not Sephora, but I know that's not nice because whoever's helping you at, like, let's say Nordstrom, you should really give them a sale. But the sanitization, I think, is better in department stores than it is Sephora. So just figure that out for yourself. But I just wanted to mention these lipsticks because they are great. I think they kind of flew under the radar. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention to anyone who loved them or didn't like them, whatever the feedback was. But these are great. And there was one other shade that I almost bought, but I left it behind because I'm like, this is too much, it's too much. It was like a red, like a soft muted red. You know I'm crazy about the reds, but the just enough reds. Maybe I'll pick it up, but I definitely want to pick up that contour bronzing powder for sure. It's been on my wish list for months. Gucci giving an update about the glow tint that was kindly provided by a sample, that is by Susie from Nordstrom. So if I do buy it, I'm going to purchase it from her. I don't think it'll be fair, or even I think it'll be mean, quite frankly, if I buy it from Sephora and don't buy it from her, after she provided me with not just 1 sample but 3, and I had ample time to play with it, to try it out, and I think it's fantastic. The glow tint from Gucci was a delightful surprise because it is not fragrance, it is creamy, the texture is phenomenal, it leaves behind just the right amount of coverage, feeling lightweight, it evens out my skin tone, it blurs my imperfections. It's a great product to reach for where you just want a quick put together face without the commitment. But not that the Givenchy Glow Serum Foundation is high commitment, I just have to use a brush, whereas the glow tint from Gucci, I just kind of whip it around and we're done. And it does feel like a nice skincare product. And the shade I would go with, if you're my shade twin, is 41. This is a mix up, my fault. The little jar Susie made for me, she put 36 when it really is 41, or was 41. It's more on the golden side, and unfortunately Gucci and I don't have great shade matching in their complexion products, but because this is a tint, is a lot more flexible and forgiving, so I don't mind the slightly more golden undertone, because yes, even though I'm more neutral, golden can look flattering on me, especially now since we're heading into the autumn winter season where I could use a little pick me up. Okay, if you're my skin twin, I would get 41. If you're a shade lighter, I would get 36. just for reference. And also wanted to talk about old favorites such as their highlighter. Now, this is a tricky consistency. You can see the putty texture just from the pan alone, and people were using far too soft of a brush to pick this texture up. But once you do, it is incredibly shiny. It has more of that wet effect versus like that crystal effect you see here in the Dior. And how I apply this is just with my finger. I picked it up with my finger and tapped it on my cheekbones. And I would use a stiffer brush to pick up this product, because if you use like a too soft, like a squirrel brush or maybe a synthetic brush that's PBT, and those filaments are smooth top to bottom, they don't have that ridging that's engineered on like a microcrystal fiber synthetic brush. So you might need a more advanced synthetic brush to pick up a texture like what's found in this Gucci highlighter. But when you do, is phenomenal. And that's what we have here. It's not bad. And a highlighter that I need to use more of because it's great. It's great. And again, because I didn't grab the right tool, I didn't use it as much, but I do think is one of Gucci's best performing products, as well as their blush. Where did the blush go? This is in soft red, and I adore the consistency. Now, I do think they're softer than the YSL. They are. The YSL has a lot of grip, and I understand how some people might not find it a favorable texture to work with, where the Gucci is a softer powder and easier to blend. It depends on the colors, what are more appealing to you, right, from the YSL or the Gucci. If I were to pick my standout favorites, definitely soft red, warm berry, and I think coral something. Not the most potent color on a complexion like mine, but it is light enough, so it does have that coral peachy hue on the center of the face that I think lovely. But if you wanted something with a little more punch, I would go with soft red. And warm berry is easier to wear than the berry shade from YSL. That is a lot drier and is deeper, so if you are deeper complected, that will be better suited for you. If you're around me or a few shades darker, I still think you could get away with warm berry, and in my opinion, a far softer texture to blend out on the cheeks. Hourglass, now they don't have on Sephora, that is, the custom feature for the holiday palettes, but they do have the holiday palettes there. Really depends on if it's worth your time in picking up, if you want another palette, if you have like 10 like myself. And their eyeshadow palettes, they're on the higher price point. I do like their eyeshadow palettes. I know people were like, oh my god, so expensive for nothing. It's kind of like luxury beauty. They're made in France, barely there but just enough. But I would argue the Sicily palettes that are not sold at Sephora, I'm sorry for mentioning, they have more pigment than the Hourglass. The Hourglass is softer, much softer, and just kind of like a breeze to apply, low maintenance, and just enough, especially if you want a soft eye look for daily or however you want to go, because they have several colorways. But because they're so small, let me just get it. I'm talking without actually showing it on camera. This is the Futurist, and again, super soft, but I like it if I just need a little something on the eyes, like for conferences, the ones that I present at, or I just needed to throw on something quick, maybe wear it with the Armani eye tint. But if these aren't worth your time, then skip them. It's fine. You have your favorites, then we'll move on to the next thing. Vanngo Beauty just joined Sephora this last September, I believe, and the Vanngo Beauty team was so kind to send me PR, but I had to pick up one of their bronzers, which I have been using in Straightforward. Despite it being on the lighter side, surprisingly has worked phenomenally well on my skin tone. Although it doesn't look like much here. Look at the, wait, can we get this? Yes! You see the sparkle? You see the sparkle? Straightforward is just enough to give me like a light bronze hue without appearing too much. And that's why I didn't purchase the next shade up. I thought I was at the time, but I think there was a mix up with the display. So I picked up Straightforward, didn't return it, kept on using it. I think it's fantastic. The blushes are phenomenal. This is in Possibilities and Legacy. Legacy is like your red orange shade. So it's definitely going to give you color. Okay, look at that. It's kind of giving you like old NARS, you know what I mean? And Possibilities is this beautiful soft orange shade that I love on the center of the face. It's like pumpkin spice latte. But this lipstick specifically, I have the shade In Wildest Dream. Listen, I've been obsessing over these brown shades, okay? You definitely have to get Wildest Dream because yes, it's kind of like rosy brown, but it's a little more mustard. I feel like I want to put this on. I just want to put on all the lipsticks I can't choose. See, I put it on for you just so you can see. But do we like rosy brown more with the eye look? Let me know down below. Vanngo's lipstick is exceptional because it applies like a satin but dries down to a more soft matte finish. There's no strange taste, no strange smell to it. One of the creamiest satin to mattes I've ever tried, and I think his color selection also is fantastic. But Wildest Dream, I mean, you have to get this color. If you love, if it was already on your radar, okay, you don't need it. It was on your wish list, however. That more grungier brown, I think is beautiful, especially with maybe a warmer eye than what I'm wearing here. Can you guess? Can you guess? But I have to include Vanngo, especially his eyeshadow palettes. My top favorites have to be the warm palette, the neutral. The neutral, in my opinion, and I use all his palettes. You could check out that video here. The neutral palette, I think, is the best performing one. Now, if you're into colors, the blue, the greens, the purples are fantastic. But if you stick with your neutrals, you will not be disappointed with that formula found in the neutral palette. Isamaya. I have not picked up her eyeshadow palettes yet because I already have the originals, okay? And I know some might not be a fan of the packaging, and I'm aware she reformulated the eyeshadow. I just don't feel it worth me buying 2 new eyeshadow palettes of colors that I already have, literally, just to try the new formula. Now, if it's in store, I'll do a few swatches there and say, yeah, this is smoother, this is more sparkly, whatever. But I'm happy with the ones that I have. And the second one you see here, this is the more like ethereal, iridescent offering, and this is the more grungy offering. This is like the Halloween palette, basically. But if I were to recommend a few products from her rebrand, definitely the skin enhancing duos in Capricorn. And I failed to include this in my red blush video, but I think this is one of the most beautiful red brown cream blushes that I own. It's super thin and soft, easy to apply, easy to blend. It definitely has just a lighter effect on the skin. It's not as color heavy or even close to matte, like let's say the DIOR Soft Filter Liquid Blush. So if you want a little more pigment, a little more of a soft matte finish, you'll go with the DIOR. But if you more like skin but better, more like an enhanced look, then maybe the duos, because it does have the accompanying highlighter cream, which is nice to place over the cream shadow. The first one I have is Nectarine, which I thought was Capricorn because the whole photo swap. I go over that in my Isamaya video. This isn't bad for the summertime, nor is it bad for now. It's gonna have like a lighter, more like, I guess, Possibilities actually reminds me of from Vanngo. But these would be my go-to colors. I like them. I should wear them more often, for sure. I think I have to place them where I see them, so they're in like the heavy rotation section of my room, like this with the Gucci Glow tin, or actually Make Beauty is not offered at Sephora, but I do have PR from them, and I recently tried the Diffusion Dew, which felt quite nice. The Diffusion Dew with like the Isamaya skin enhancing duos is a nice matchup, you know, for everyday but better skin, just put together, a little bit of flush across the cheeks, you know what I mean? And her lip liners, you might not be blown away by the formula because it's a solid formula, is creamy but not so creamy that it just kind of slides everywhere. There's no feathering. It offers nice reinforcement for your lipstick. The colors that I think are unique, I have Liberica and like a red tone something. I'll make sure to put everything down below, but I think across the board the liners are great in terms of the undertone and just something a little different to add to your collection if you felt your lipsticks were missing something or you wanted something more unconventional to your neutrals. Definitely check out Isamaya's lip liners, as well as her lip balms, her metallic lip balms. I haven't been wearing often. I have it in Penny, and I feel like I should because now I'm in like my vampy lip era, which I have no problems wearing out and about, 7 in the morning. Don't care. So maybe I'll return to her metallic balm and get back to you with how I feel about it. But I like the vampy colors with without the sparkle and the metallic effect on the lid. That's the main difference. So we'll see how I feel about that with a metallic finish versus a matte one. You know what I mean? Kulfi lip oil stain. The eye pots that are great for one and done looks. I'm not aware of any new Kulfi additions to the brand, but I think it's pretty solid for like one of those indie brands that are found in Sephora that have solid products. But those are my two main picks from the brand. The one, oh, I gotta get it. m.pH by Mary Phillips. Now, I haven't grabbed her concealer palette yet, simply because that's not in my makeup routine, and I'm more than happy to learn her technique to get a better grasp as to why she created a product and how I could better use it and understand it. I just don't feel inclined to do so. And again, that has nothing to do with Mary. I just don't apply or do underpainting in that way, as my routine has just been quick and just enough for what I wish to achieve. But I did pick up her little Siggy lipstick in Overdrive. Now, this is like more of a lipstick balm hybrid situation, and it's a light taupe, so a lot lighter than, let's say, the ABH lipstick. But you know what this reminds me of? Shame on me for not mentioning these when I was talking about Gucci. The Rouge de Beauty Brilliant is like their shiny lipstick hybrid as well, but in Peggy Taupe. Peggy Taupe has a little more color. Does it? I think Peggy Taupe might be a little more mauve-y, actually. They're actually equal in terms of color payoff, okay? So they're equal in terms of color payoff. They're both shiny, but the Mary lipstick doesn't have any fragrance. The Gucci does. And if you want a little more of a cooler undertone, then I would go with Overdrive from Mary Phillips. It's a nice product. It's very lightweight, meaning, you want to see it on? Hold on, let's do it. I dial it up, but now it doesn't want to dial back down. And I'm smushing the heck out of it. Oops, sorry. So that's Overdrive. You see how low key it is, but it's a pretty color. It's also nice to wear on the daily, to just throw on if you want it like that taupe moment on the lip, but it not being as grungy as the ABH color. So it's pretty. But when I tried to dial it down, it didn't want to go down. I had to press it down, and then I messed up the bullet. So it's already glitching, for crying out loud. I just had this for like a few weeks. Merit Beauty, the blush balm pods, I love. Don't know if I'll pick up anything else. Maybe an extra shade in those. NARS, there hasn't been anything particularly interesting from NARS as of late. I know they released their holiday collection, but it didn't really speak to me like the DIOR one does. Natasha Denona will not be picking up her High Glam foundation because I didn't find a great color match. I already bought the texture and tone palette in Dramatic, and even if you could get 20% off, I think you're better off getting the Freedom palette if you're into those textures and finishes. Maybe like a Pat McGrath palette instead, because listen, Natasha Denona shadows are great. I'd rather you save your money on a palette that feels truly special, right? And if you don't have those shades already and you want to increase your neutral shadow inventory, then sure. But I don't know, I would skip it or wait until it goes maybe on more sale, maybe on the Natasha Denona site. And Natasha Denona does have a rewards program there, so it's just something to think about. You know what I mean? I would pick up Yucca, Xenon. I think Xenon was limited edition though. I would pick up I Need a Warm over Texture Tone Dramatic. I would, because at least I Need a Warm has like the rosier browns and like the wet effects. It's just a prettier palette to me. McGrath Labs, yes, if you haven't already guessed it, I have on Petalmorphosis because I wanted to give it some love. And when this released, it was highly anticipated because people were wondering, is Pat going to reintroduce the bake shades? Even though there are no bake shades in here, I think the shinier shadows are fantastic. They're shiny, they're easy to use. I don't mind that they're not baked. I have not yet picked up Gilded Nirvana. I'm still waiting. I don't know what's holding me back. Maybe because Petalmorphosis is fantastic, and what I saw in Gilded Nirvana, not exactly the same, but I saw shades resembling what I already have here. I understand, however, the compact is not cardboard, is actually like is it metal or like a hard plastic, and it's shiny. So it appears that there was more effort put into the packaging this year, and the shadows look great. They look shiny, but McGrath Labs can run a wicked sale on her own site. So that's why I'm like, oh, should I just wait until Gilded Nirvana goes on sale? I know it'll be after the fact. I mean, the palette has already been reviewed by now. Maybe nobody cares. If it goes like 30% off on Pat's site, I might pick it up then. But I might be seduced if it does end up in store at Sephora. I swatch it and I'm like, oh, I gotta get it. At least it'll be 20% off. So I'm on the fence. Let me know what I should do down below. Prada Beauty. Now, I don't know if Prada Beauty is going to have a sale on their own site. We'll see. But if you can get 20% off, for sure, the highlighter. The highlighter has to be one of Prada Beauty's most beautiful releases this year. It is like a glow from within lit pearl finish. It's extraordinary. It's like a hybrid format, kind of like the Gucci, not as shiny as the Gucci. The Gucci is more like glass wet effect, where the Prada is more like a soft glow pearl effect. Also, their eyeshadow palettes, which I know people might not think pigmented enough, la la la. Listen, they're in the luxury beauty space. It's a softer texture, and it allows you to build color intensity to where you want it to go, and easier to use and blend. And I just think it's so interesting how they include that pop of color alongside the neutral tones. And of course, they released, I think it was last February, I can't recall, their holographic palettes that are more nude leaning overall. And I heard they're coming out with something nice for the holidays. I don't think it's going to come out in time for the sale though. I don't know. I'll keep an eye out though. I will purchase another tube, however, of their Prada Scope mascara. This is my second tube, and I might buy a third for backup. And I'm showing this refill because I'm not entirely sure. Well, you can buy the refill probably online, not in store. And I didn't buy the entire bottle because just the refill, I think, was like $50-$55. Between this and the Givenchy have been my go-to foundations. Plus the Suku jar foundation, which I also love. There's just a beautiful fluidity and lightness about the Prada reveal, and the fact that the scent is not overpowering. I prefer it over the Givenchy actually. It's more herbal skincare, more tolerable, and I wanted to show this because it is one of my top picks for the year in the foundation category. But this mascara, I know I haven't tried lots of different mascaras. The brush can be tough to handle because it does place a lot of mascara on at once. And if you hear background noise, it's because there are Halloween festivities going on. They close the road in front of me and all the kids and parents just kind of frolic around. It's a fun time. So if you hear any fun sounds, that's what's happening. Happy Halloween. I know the brush can be tough to handle, but every time I use this gosh darn brush, the instantaneous effect that occurs. Lashes are dark, black, dramatic, and voluminous. So this is more of a thickening, volumizing mascara versus lengthening. If you prefer length, then I don't think you're gonna like the Prada Scope. I like that thick, voluminous, like almost chunky look to my lashes that are super black. That's what I prefer in a mascara. So those are my mascara preferences. I just want to put it out there because if those are not your preferences, I don't think you're gonna like this mascara. But if you want to try, it is phenomenal. One of my most favorite mascaras I've ever used. And I don't even want to look at another mascara. Although I did try like a little sample of the DIOR Overcurl, I think. I like that one too. I don't know if I like it more than the Prada Scope, because when I bounced back and forth, used DIOR one day and Prada the other, the Prada Scope just gave me like this dark black dramatic effect that I did not get from the DIOR. And I don't get from a lot of mascaras or from the ones I've used in the past. Prada Scope is truly special. Again, everything from the formula to the brush construction, you just can't get enough. I need another tube. Time for do. Now, I don't know, well, let me check if Sephora has the new Soleil Nage collection, or they will, because I did pick up the lip balm. I did. It was when I was on my beauty excursion with Wayne Unsolicited Advice that I was dying to see specifically Fireside in action. It is a shiny lipstick glossy balm hybrid. It's more like a balm for sure. But yeah, Sephora does have Tom Ford. If I were to recommend a few things, you gotta get West Coast. This is number N3. It's a cinnamon, but it's like a rosy cinnamon. Do I have? No, I don't have space. This all over the lips, one and done. You're ready to go. But the Fireside Gloss, which is a limited edition shade, it's like a berry, like a smoky berry that is great all over the lips just as a one and done. It has fantastic shine. I don't think there's like a little bit of like a light vanilla fragrance, but it's one of my more tolerable fragrances that I have in my lipsticks. I don't mind it at all. This reminds me of Monogram Rouge from the Louis Vuitton lip balms, except the Louis Vuitton lip balms don't have shine. It's just that balm. But if you want like that burgundy, I think Fireside is gorgeous. Ooh, everyone's getting their candy. But we're almost there. Valentino, I would recommend their Spike matte lipsticks. I don't know if Sephora will sell the refills, but I already have a case, so I might order the refills or just wait for a brand sale. I do want to check out their spiky blushes because I love the eye to cheek blushes. This is in Sweet Rebel. Is this? Yes, this is like the satin rose. A beautiful formula for a satin blush. Smooth on the application, even tone. It doesn't disrupt the foundation when you whip it on. But I'm dying to try out one of their newer blushes for sure. And YSL, if you wanted to pick up one of the quads, I would pick up personally 830, which is the Unexplored Garden colorway. This is like your grungy olive color offering. 710, my beloved Overbrune. You can't go wrong. It's just like your everyday, but bump it up to smoky if you need. But Captivating Dunes, definitely from their newer colorways that released this year, 720 is a must. This for me, it's just a classic quad that you cannot live without. If you want that smoky, elegant eye, maybe on the softer side where you place that darker brown along the lash line or you smoke it out on the outer lids, you have that choice. And in terms of the formula for YSL shadows, and something I recognize and was grateful for when helping out my friend's sister, is that these powders, yes, they might not be the most pigmented mattes you've ever used, but the softness is unparalleled. They just glide on the lids and they're incredibly easy to use. And I think it's just a favorable characteristic for those who might not be particularly fond of eyeshadow because they don't feel comfortable working with it, or whenever they do, the end result appears splotchy and uneven on the eyes. The powders are just beautifully soft where you have the room and the space to build the color and blend it out. I know I placed it over what I had here, but see that? There's almost like a sheen to the mattes where they're not flat and dry on the lids. And even the overlay shade that could be on the drier side, I would just use like one of Pat's intensifies wand, right, to pick up that softer texture, because this does get everywhere. It does. It kind of like floats around, but the effect is lovely. It's multi-pearl, it's shiny, and it does leave behind like that wet effect on the skin, on the lids. But those are my three favorites. If I were to pick a fourth one, it'll be Guayli's Dream for sure, because the terracottas, the more reddish terracotta tones in that palette are phenomenal. Babylon Roses I love. I wish these freaking quads were refillable. Even if I had to pay more, I would rather pay more for the compact and pay less for the refills over time, because to have all these freaking compacts in your drawer, it just gets super chunky and just tough to store. Ugh. But anyway, those are my current favorites. Anything else from YSL? I do like their Love Shine lipstick. It's fine, but not my top pick from a hybrid lipstick category, right? Not like the Burberry lipstick, which I don't think Sephora sells. Do they sell Burberry cosmetics? I'm not entirely sure. The YSL Love Shine lipstick has like more of a fig, which I actually like. I like that lipstick scent a lot. I would rather there's not any, but whatever. What are you gonna do? And of course, the blush. The blush, how could I forget the blush? Chili Red recently released, but I gotta say it is it's tough to work with because it's quite intense, quite pigmented. It is red. So you have to be careful with the brush that you use, even careful with how your foundation is, because if your foundation didn't set, that powder is going to grip and you're not going to have a fun time blending that out. I will say that 37 Peachy Nude is one of the better performing blushes out of the lineup. It's soft and it has that burnt peach tone that I think gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So if I had to pick out my standout favorite, also Rose Haze. Rose Haze is like that salmon color, which I like. It's the barely there, just enough peachy pink tone on the center of my face. But 37 Peachy Nude I think is the best one. I know I didn't try all of them. I didn't try each and every one of them. But this particular one is super smooth, is even on the application, and the shade is pretty. Again, you can't go wrong with the burnt peach. It's nice and hearty, and it's not so much coral peach. It has a little bit of depth to the color where I could just wear it perhaps higher, maybe here into the hollows. Oh my gosh, Fara Homidi. If you were to pick up just one product, I know this bronzer is expensive, but Sephora does have it both in store, online. Well, depending on the location, in store, definitely online. This is Roma. It is a creamy powder hybrid that, my goodness, it picks up like a powder but applies like a soft cream. You see that? And I applied it today on the cheeks alongside the DIOR Soft Filter Blush, alongside the Gucci highlighter, the DIOR highlighter, okay? Phenomenal product. It is. And yes, it could be brush tricky, but I used it with the Refer Shoto 05 and it was a delight to apply because the design of the brush just works that product on the skin. It gets it moving and grooving, where a softer brush I think will have a tougher time blending it on the skin. You want it to appear even on the application, and I think a slightly stiffer brush will be your bet using the Fara Homidi bronzer. If you get Roma, I think Bois is the shade lighter than Roma that actually is supposed to be for me, for my skin tone part of the spectrum. I went with Roma because with this high price point, it's in the 70s, so 20% off will be quite helpful. The toastier tone to this bronzer is exceptional. And again, the texture is unlike anything I have in my bronzer collection specifically. And the other product I highly recommend that I also picked up with the bronzer has to be the lip liner in Minky. This is my lips, but a little rosier brown. And it goes with a number of different lipsticks that I have in my collection. Even something I could throw on by itself and maybe pair it with the EADEM gloss, you know what I'm saying? If I want a little more structure and wanted to add the shine, I could go in with this combination. If you're wondering about the Tom Ford foundation, I would not be purchasing it. I like it. I think it's fine, but I much prefer Givenchy and Prada Reveal. A huge thank you to Angie from Nordstrom for providing me a sample of it. I have plenty left and I would still like to use it. Even with the 20% off, I don't think it'll be worth my purchase because I'm not crazy about it. However, if you are my skin twin and are thinking about buying it during the sale, I would suggest you get Sable. That is my skin tone, but just maybe a shade warmer. Not warmer, but maybe a shade darker, because the two lighter above I thought would just be straight dead on my skin tone and wouldn't be as flattering. So I will not be getting the foundation, but if I were to get that Olive Smoke Quad, I have my eye on that. I do. For a while now, I swatched it at Bergdorf and it is beautiful. Don't know if Sephora will have it available, but if it is available, I have to keep you updated on that. And that is it, everyone. My recommendations for the upcoming Sephora sales events that, again, if you're Rouge, starts on October 31st, on November 4th if you're VIB and Insider. It runs through the 10th, and again, don't have to participate. Not saying you have to. If you are considering, I thank you in advance for using my affiliate links that you can find it down below in one huge link that will have all the products that I recommended in this video on that same page. I'll keep keep you updated if I buy anything. I do have my wish list so I could just keep track of any brand sales that occur after the sale. I'm not in a particular rush to grab anything, but if you are, hopefully this video just kind of helped your shopping decisions, whether it solidified them or made you realize you didn't need it because texture, color, whatever the situation is. And if you made it this far, make sure you like this video by clicking that thumbs up. It helps me immensely in letting the YouTube algorithm know that I'm worth watching. Will now continue to recommend my videos to watch, as well as to other beauty enthusiasts such as yourself. And consider subscribing. Maybe there'll be a what did I get from Sephora video, and you'll know when that upload drops immediately, especially when you click that notification bell. If you are a returning subscriber, I appreciate the watch, friend. But if it's your first time here, please stay, peruse some more. Maybe I'll see you in this video here. I'll definitely see you down in the comments for this one. And on here again next time.